How's it going, fellas? Today I have a really special sauce recipe I've recently fallen in love with while on my internship. Not too many people I know have heard of vodka sauce, so I'm hoping to spread it around a little bit. The meatball recipe is something I've tampered with throughout the years and is very far from perfect, so feel free to make them however you like. But if you want to just try pan-fried meatballs instead, I highly recommend it. I'm starting with just slightly over 3 pounds of medium ground beef, but I'm only using half and freezing the rest. Then you'll need your last egg, breadcrumbs of your choice, but Italian seasoned is the best for this. Some salt and pepper, and that good green bottle. I don't measure the ingredients here, and you don't really have to either. Once you incorporate all the ingredients, you'll go based on how it feels. If it feels too wet, just add more breadcrumbs and a little bit more Parmesan. If it's too dry, you can always add another egg. If they're too dry, they'll be very rubbery when you cook them, and if they're too wet, they'll just disintegrate in the pan while you're trying to cook them. The tricky part about this is seeing if the meat is seasoned properly without contracting a foodborne illness. I recommend making a very small patty out of the meat so it cooks really quickly and tasting it after that, adjusting the mixture based on how it tastes. Once it's all mixed, give it a nice. Then over on a non-stick pan, add a bit of neutral oil, preferably vegetable. While the pan heats up, we'll shape the meatballs. I prefer mine a bit on the smaller side to speed up the cooking, as well as just preference all around. Make them as big as you want. Add some meatballs to the hot pan, but be careful not to overcrowd. This makes it harder to brown the meat. Just for reference, half the package made me 15 meatballs plus 10 ones that I cooked later that day, and froze for another time. Once they're browning nicely, you can give them a scrape and a little flip. Look at that Maillard reaction. I break a meatball here, probably because I'm using a spoon instead of a spatula to scrape up the meatballs. They stick like crazy to the pan initially, so it helps to scrape them free from underneath to not break them. Let them go until they're a nice color on the outside. If they're a bit undercooked inside, that's perfect. Reserve them for later. And optimally throw some water to boil before starting any of this. Throw some pasta of your choice to the water. I went with spaghetti because spaghetti and meatballs. But this sauce works best with cavatappi in my opinion. Now for that sauce. Optionally, you could start by heating up some oil and throwing in some chili flakes. You can also just throw them in the sauce, or not at all. Don't burn them like me though. They burn really quickly, so don't turn your back to them. Throw a jar of the best sauce in the world, aka your nana's, and let it heat up. Then in a sweet rainbow skull, you'll measure 1/3 of a cup of vodka. Preferably the really cheap stuff, not Crystal Skull. Then a half cup of 35%. Stir the mixture up. You can see that I fully cooked my meatballs. It's best to cook them until they're really close to being done because they're gonna finish cooking the boiling sauce anyways. In the end, my meatballs ended up being a little rubbery because of that, but hey, we're just here to have fun, so it's all good. If you do fully cook them though, just throw them into the sauce at the very end to warm them up. Let the sauce reduce a bit, stirring every few minutes. Once the sauce is close to being thick enough, add the almost cooked pasta to the mixture, with a bit of pasta water as well. This really helps to bind the sauce and the pasta together, to thicken it, and add some salty flavor from the water. And now it's time to plate. Get a nice twirl going with your tongs, or 2, and add 3 meatballs specifically to the party, adding some extra sauce on top of everything if you want to get really crazy. And that's basically all there is to homemade pasta with meatballs. I'll be covering how to make some good homemade tomato sauce at some point in the future, because this doesn't do justice with the store-bought stuff. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed. Take care. Get a nice twirl going with your spatula. Get a nice twirl... spatula. Get a nice twirl going... The hell are tongs? That's what they're called. Get a nice twirl going...